Yo, thank you guys for tuning in for another video. Trust that you're glad to see me as I'm glad to see you. So, this is going to be a really interesting video. I'm going to be unpacking a lot of what are, in my opinion, very loaded questions. And I'll go ahead and pose a few of them to you right off the bat. And by the way, I'm genuinely curious to know what your guys' thoughts are on these. So if you have comments, leave them down in the comment section below. I will do my best to read and respond to those as promptly as possible. Here's the question, or some of the questions. Why is Christianity in decline? Why are more and more people disaffiliating with Christianity? Why are fewer and fewer people going to church? Depending on what your stance or position is, you may have a variety of answers or ways to approach these questions. Again, they're really big questions, they're loaded questions. And some of you may think that it's a good thing that Christianity is on the decline, others may think it's a great thing. One of the things that I want to address in this video, in fact, it's the most important point of this video, it's the reason I'm making it in the first place, is that I believe most people, yes, most people, I'll say most people, have been led astray because their entire understanding of Christ and his teachings are predicated on the assumption that he was a proponent of religion. In simple terms, most people believe that Christianity is a religion, and they follow a religion as opposed to following Christ. And there's a pretty profound difference, actually. And the way that I'll draw attention to that is by drawing attention, or really drawing a parallel between the Pharisees of Jesus' time and many of the church-going people of today. Now, I know this is controversial. It's even offensive to some people. It's not my intention to be offensive. It's not my intention to speak ill of my brothers and sisters in Christ or to speak ill of the bride of Christ. I hate I have to give all these disclaimers, but I don't want anybody to mistake my intention. I'm not saying these things to cut and to hurt and to tear down and to condemn, because I think all of us can agree that the Pharisees of Jesus' time are not admirable people. But rather than look down our noses on them, I think it's very important that we consider what led them to be the way they are, and also rightly acknowledge that the way they were is the way that many so-called Christians today are. And if you haven't noticed by now, all of this is culminating in me answering the questions that I asked at the beginning of this video that I post to you. I believe that one of the biggest reasons that many people are moving away from Christianity or moving away from church and just organized religion in general is because there are many fake Christians and false prophets. There are many wolves in the church, and the representation that they have of Christianity are these Pharisees. So let's go ahead and talk about the Pharisees. If you've read the Gospels, you know that there are several stories, several interactions between Jesus and the Pharisees in which it's very clearly demonstrated they don't get along. Now, this is really curious when you consider the fact that Jesus and the Pharisees had a lot in common. After all, they had the same national heritage, the same religious heritage, the same cultural heritage, the same ethnic heritage. They had so much in common, yet they could not be more different. Here's the thing about the Pharisees. Jesus didn't have a problem with the Pharisees because they were sinners. That's not why he had a problem. Everybody's a sinner, okay? The reason he had a problem with the Pharisees is because they were hypocrites. They were the type of people who were so fixated on the outward appearance. They were so apt to be self-righteous and to condemn and judge others because they weren't like them on the external. Yet, they couldn't realize how inwardly they were so corrupt. They were wretched, and they lacked a relationship with God. You see, they got so accustomed to going through the motions of religion. They became so entrenched in dogma and doctrine and legalism that they totally missed the point. They forgot who God was. And instead of worshiping God, they worshiped their own religion. You see, they made an egoism out of religion. In a phrase, they had too much religion and not enough faith. The reason that I'm bringing them up is because, again, I wanted to draw a parallel between them and the way that many people in modern 21st century American churches are today. And I know that it is offensive. I know that it rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but many churches today are full of people who are just like these Pharisees. And many people from the pulpit have made the pulpit the object of entertainment. They have made it the object of show. Just like the Pharisees were in their own day, they were more concerned with putting on a show, with conveying to others how holy and righteous they were, and yet they didn't consider that they themselves were the unrighteous sinners, the wretched ones, right? The most perplexing thing about the Pharisees, however, and this always gets me, is that while they considered themselves to be the servants of God, they claimed to be the servants of God, they could not even recognize God when he was standing right in front of them. And in fact, when Jesus merely pointed out to them that they were sinful, that they were being hypocrites, what did they do in response to that? They condemned him. They had him crucified. His own people, literally his own people, the people that he had more in common with than anybody else, were the very people who not only rejected him but condemned him. And did it in the name of God. It's very perplexing. I mean, it's more than ironic. It's comically ironic. But my point in saying all that is that, guys, I think that the way that we have watered down and diluted and perverted the gospel, collectively, how we have become so tolerant of this, and how we have sort of contented ourselves with a religious, dogmatic Christianity, and done it all in the name of really ego and pride, speaks to why so many people have been disaffiliating with it, why so many people feel disillusioned with religion. And more than that, there's another category or group of Christians who are very similar to the Pharisees. I should say fake or false Christians, fake Christians or false prophets, who are very similar to the Pharisees, but they differ in one way, in that they simply don't take the gospel seriously. They've perverted and diluted the gospel to such an extent that it no longer resembles Christ's message or Christ's character. These are the type of people who will use the platform of Christianity to enrich themselves. They're more concerned with saying things which are popular than saying things which are biblically accurate and true. And unfortunately, these are some of the people who have some of the greatest followings. And just like the Pharisees in a different way, though, they are concerned with putting on a show and entertaining people and enticing people and seducing people with words and sophistry, rather than speaking through the Spirit and by demonstration of the Spirit and power. This is where so many 21st century modern American churches find themselves. And it's no wonder that so many people look at this hollow shell of Christianity and don't want anything to do with it. It's because we have contented ourselves to follow a religion rather than follow the way, the truth, and the life. Guys, the cherry on top of all this is that we, especially in the United States, I can't speak for the rest of the world, we have become so segregated internally, that is, as Christians across all lines, race, denomination, creed, politics. It's very sad. It's very sad. We can't even find unity together. We bicker amongst ourselves and we fight amongst ourselves. And what do you think God thinks? What do you think Christ thinks of the example, the representation that we set to others? It should be no surprise to us that we are the butt of many jokes, that we are the object of scoffing and mockery. And I know this doesn't apply to all Christians. I know that. I know that. Again, this was not directed to the body of Christ. This is not directed to followers of Christ or the bride of Christ. This is directed to all the people who have it misunderstood. They have the wrong idea, whether you claim to be a believer or not. Christianity is not a religion. Religion is weak. The weakness of religion is that inevitably human beings will always corrupt it. They will always use it as an instrument of self-gratification or power or leverage. And that's not who God called us to be. Christ washed the feet of his disciples. He blessed his enemies. He did not curse them. He said, if the world hates you, know that it hated me before it hated you. And if we really want to follow him, we have to deny ourselves and take up our cross. Like, this is the way. Not going to church and treating it like some convention and indulging a show to entertain and to try to fool others and to pretend that we're okay and that we're doing the right things. And we just get so used to going through the motions and faking it until we make it, until we look back and we realize we've been living an insincere life. And that's not who God has called us to be. That's not who Christ was. That's not who he was. And so I'm not going to go on and on and on beating a dead horse. I think I've conveyed the point. Guys, seek him for yourself. Know him for yourself. It's about relationship, not religion. It's about faith, not religion. It's about worship. God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And you're either walking in the spirit or you're walking in the flesh. Romans 8. Okay. All right. Not going to go on. Thank you guys for tuning in again. Let me know what you thought. If you have any questions, critiques, comments, etc., please leave those down in the comment section below. If you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Share it if you think it'll be of value to someone. And yeah, and I guess until next time. Bye-bye.